So before we get into the controversy regarding Sukihana and whether or not she was essayed, let's review a couple of things.
First of all, I come from a long line of tricks and hoes. Yes, what's the eyebrow thing? I come from a long line of hoes. I'm not the first one, maybe in this generation, but it go all the way back to slavery time. And before then, with the Egyptians and the Moors, a long line of selling. I'm not the first one. My auntie, my mama don't like me saying her name in my interviews. Grandmama, great-grandmama, great-great-great-grandmama.
So the latest controversy is specifically connected to whether or not Sukihana was essayed by two black men in two different instances. We have the situation with her and DJ A1, where on the interview he was making a lot of sexual advances and you could see that she seemed uncomfortable. And then you have the other interview where YK Osiris went and basically forced a kiss on her. And of course the internet went wild, everybody went wild, and this feeds into the narrative about protecting black women. Why aren't black women being respected? Black men are this, black men and ish, and y'all know the world goes round. With that said, there is never a situation where a man or a woman should feel comfortable making unwanted sexual advances towards another person. Like, there's never a time where that is okay. Do I think Sukihana or really anyone deserves to have unwanted sexual advances towards them? No. But do I think her lifestyle invites that kind of energy and aggression? Absolutely. It's called the laws of reaping and sowing, also known as karma. It's the way the world works. We have to be honest with what is going on here. Sukihana has made an entire career not promoting sexual liberation, no, promoting sexual debauchery. You have interviews after interviews, you have different songs where she has promoted the most grotesque of sexual acts. I mean, she has literally paraded herself as nothing more than a sexual freak. She has made her career off of this. She has paraded herself like this. And so what bothers me is where at one time we have this culture that wants to push women being able to be sexually free and sexually liberated, but at the same time we have the same culture where the same women want to be treated like Puritans, and then they get mad when they are met with the same aggression. At the end of the day, if you are sexually aggressive, basically showing that all you have to offer is your sex, all you have to offer is your body, if you present yourself in that way, you cannot be surprised when people match that energy. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's moral. I'm not saying it's righteous, but we don't live in a righteous world. We live in a fallen world. And so you have to move accordingly. You cannot position yourself and dress like a prostitute and then be mad when you're treated like one. And I know some of you guys are going to say this is victim blaming, yada yada. It's not, because I'm not saying that she deserved to be treated that way. We can't forget that this is the same woman who had a music video where she was twerking on a young boy, where she was doing predatory behavior. I want to imagine a world in which a grown man was grinding on a young 8, 9, 10-year-old girl, and then a couple of months later, a woman made a sexual advance at him and people are crying victim and saying he was essayed. I want you to imagine a world where that exists, where a man can make that kind of egregious mistake and then turn around and months later, be shown to be the victim. That wouldn't happen. It wouldn't happen at all. We would hold him accountable. But now when it comes to women, we want to have our cake and eat it too. We want to be able to promote sexual, not liberation, sexual debauchery, and then be upset when we receive the consequences associated with that. Here are the laws of reaping and sowing. Unfortunately, if you promote yourself as a prostitute, if you say that you are a trick and talk about you come from a long line of tricks, you cannot be surprised when you are treated accordingly. You can't treat yourself like a prostitute and then want to be a Puritan. This is precisely why I am totally against what is so-called sexual liberation, which is really turned into sexual debauchery, because this is the kind of stuff that we see. You have to be willing to accept the consequences for your actions. And as I said before, the laws of reaping and sowing are always at work. You reap what you sow. If you promote yourself like a prostitute, you'll be treated accordingly. And at the end of the day, to me, Sukihana is a lost woman. She is a lost woman who was not set up for success. She said she came from a long line of tricks. prostitutes. She literally said out of her own words, all I have to offer is between my legs. I'm giving you the PG version. This is not a woman who was taught to value herself. And so this is not a woman who was taught to value herself. And then you add to that the fact that she has been promoted and she has been celebrated for doing the most debaucherous, heinous, disrespectful acts to her body. Quite frankly, I feel sad for her. She needs help. This is not a role model. This is not somebody we should look up to. She needs help. She needs to know that she is better than how she's presenting herself and that she could do so much more than just treat her body like a trash can. But unfortunately, she never got that message. And then people came along and reinforced those really deceitful lies about who she is. And so I feel sad for her, truthfully. But I think also these kinds of things can be learning lessons and knowing that, look, you don't have to go down this road. At the end of the day, we have women who are going to defend this behavior, and look, I get it. You can't change their minds. This message isn't for you. But for those of you who want to live differently, for those of you who do not agree with this, or maybe you were involved in similar behaviors such as Sukihana and you want to get out of it, there is a better way of doing things. You do not have to treat your body like a trash can. You do not have to believe the lie today that says that the more bodies that you have, the more sex you have, the more experience you have, the more liberated you're going to be, the happier you're going to be. All of that is a lie. It is all a lie. It is a lie. And so you can treat your body like a temple. You can preserve yourself. There are other things that you can engage in as a woman that'll make you feel so much more valuable, that have nothing to do with sex, that have nothing to do with attention, that have nothing to do with you trying to get things from men or manipulate men. There is a better way of living. I've always said before, women, when they are redeemed, when they are walking according to their God-given identity, there is so much value that they can bring to a situation. If you look at the Bible, wisdom is personified as a woman, and a righteous woman is a huge blessing, not only to herself, but to the people around her, to her husband, to her family, to a community. A righteous woman can literally change and impact her entire community. She can change the course of her family. She can release generational blessing. A wise woman has so much influence and power for good. And so what we have an example of time and time again is fallen women who are operating in the spirit of foolishness. This is what we see all the time when women are operating in their foolishness. But the flip side is that when you are redeemed and when you start to operate according to what God has created you to be, you can actually be a positive impact. You can actually make a difference. And yes, you can actually be different. You don't have to sell yourself on OnlyFans or try to just live trying to make a quick dollar. There is a better way of doing things. This is exactly what being a Christ follower is about. Dying to that old identity, or dying to the way that the world says you need to do things, and being reborn. Learning a better way of doing things, returning back to your original intended purpose, which is not to go around and be a hoe, which is not to go around and to sell your body and to manipulate men, but which is to be a blessing, not only to yourself, but to the people around you, which is to emanate and to represent the wisdom of God. That is what women could be. But you get to decide which road you're going to take. It's up to you. But what do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know. Leave your questions, comments, concerns in the comment section below. Thank you so much for listening if you've gotten this far, and we'll talk later. Bye.